Hi, everyone. My name is Cathy Burrell, and I'm the Client Services Coordinator for WeBC. Before we get started today, I just wanted to acknowledge that we are gathered here today on the traditional and unceded territory of the Okanagan Syilx people. We recognize, honor, and respect the presence of Indigenous people, past, present, and future. So welcome, everybody. If you would like to write in the chat what traditional territory you're on, we'd love that. Some people don't know. So Jen, our tech coordinator for today's session, will actually share a link that has a map with all the traditional territories on it. And if you're interested, go ahead and type in the chat what city or town you're from and what traditional territory you're on. I also wanted to remind everybody that in today's webinar, we're happy to do a feedback poll at the end to make sure that this was what you were looking for. But if you've got a burning topic for the federal government, for Procurement Assistance Canada, that you would like us to do here at WeBC, we would love for you to type it into the feedback poll at the end of today. I'm just going to mention a little bit about what WeBC offers. We provide support for your small business journey. We offer financing to get your business started and operating capital to fuel your growth. We offer more flexibility than a traditional lender because we take a holistic approach and provide loans based on your business's viability, not based on formula. So what this means is we provide loans to a diverse range of women-owned businesses and support you with integrated services, including complementary training, mentoring, and business advising. From essential business skills development to personalized business advice, we know the right questions to ask and the right resources to connect you with. In our mentoring programs, you can connect with a network of women entrepreneurs and experts around BC who can support and inspire you. You can learn more about our services, all we do here in BC, at our website at we-bc.ca. And to learn more about what we do and to stay current with what women entrepreneurs are doing in this wonderful province, please sign up for our eBlast newsletter. It's we-bc.ca/eblast. And you'll get a little email from us once a month with a list of programs that we're running. And believe me, the fall is coming. We have a ton of great offerings coming up this September. Okay, let's move on to what's going to be a really informative webinar today. I'd like to welcome our panelists, Sarah Ann and David. Sarah Ann is from Procurement Assistance Canada, and David Kim is the Regional Manager from the BDC, Business Development Bank of Canada. Okay. Oops. So I would like to tell everybody a little bit about today's webinar. RFx is an acronym that encompasses request for information, or request for expression of interest, or request for proposal, or a request for quotation, and many more. So navigating the response process for federal RFxs can be a daunting task. Yet, there are tools and strategies that can help you use or that you can use to help build capacity for future sales opportunities with the government. And that's what we're here to discuss today. This workshop will guide you through the essentials of preparing your business effectively. We'll cover various proactive strategies to positively position your business for your upcoming federal contracts. So we're going to start out off today with Sarah Ann. So I'd like to welcome Sarah Ann and David, and please take it away, Sarah Ann.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm just going to share screen here. One sec. Can everybody see my slide fine? Yeah? Okay. Excellent. Great. So I joined, I guess 2.5 years ago with Procurement Assistance Canada. I was born deaf. I have deaf parents. I have navigated the world in many ways and experienced lots of barriers in my lifetime. Obviously, I'm a signer. I use American Sign Language. I also have an interpreter here, as you can hear, interpreting this presentation. And I just want to acknowledge this interpreter has stepped in last minute to do this presentation. This is a new topic for her, and this is a new subject matter. So if we have any moments of clarification, you'll understand why. And if there's anything that's unclear during my presentation, please ask me. Feel free, and also to reach out after this session. You can reach out. I'm very happy to meet with any of you individually. Very, very happy to do so. Before I worked with PAC, I actually owned my own business. I owned a tiling business. I managed contracts and did bids for contracts. So coming on with the federal government was an interesting learning opportunity for me. And also, I think as a past business owner in that construction area and managing contracts, I thought, so interesting. What I thought was fairly straightforward, I realize is incredibly complicated now that I'm on this side of things. So I appreciate that there's a lot of nuances for people. So you're not alone in this journey of federal procurement and learning. I'm hoping this session will give you some information and strategies on how to move forward to enter this sort of complicated world, but being able to navigate it with some other skills. So I know that Barry Payne presented last session, and if you had the opportunity to watch his presentation, it's fantastic. I would recommend, if you've not, to do so. It's on WeBC's website. It's already recorded in there for you and would be very beneficial. He talked a lot about low dollar value and how to navigate the federal government in terms of networking and building your relationship with the federal government. And in that work with various departments or branches, sectors, and being able to create a working relationship that then allows you to look at larger value bids going forward. I think that LDV is typically below that $25,000 for goods and below $40,000 for services, which allows you to sort of not have to have that complexity and to look at providing services, and then to move on to those larger sales as you move through that to potentially do an RFP, an RFSO, etc., those RFxs. And so entering into that will just give you a little bit more experience and opportunity, and really it can be a lot when you begin to explore this. So I'm hoping to provide some basic information and then look at where your business fits within the various streams and sort of what you need to do first. And it give you, I think creating time to explore the system before you're actually doing some of this really allows you to start to prepare your business for those larger tenders in the future, those kinds of opportunities. So I'm hoping to help you. I think sometimes when we look at responding to a bid and trying to do that in the best ways, we can miss opportunities by just not knowing those steps. And so if you kind of test the waters a little bit, dip your toes in, begin to understand this landscape, then it allows you to ultimately bid on larger contracts down the road. I'm going to pause for a minute just to make sure there's no questions before I start to talk about the process. No? Okay.
People can just go ahead and raise your hands if you want to ask Saran a question, or you can ask towards the end.
Perfect. So, and I think Cathy or Jennifer will send you this PowerPoint after. And if you see, I've got this graphic here, which I know might not be that clear, but if you actually click on the links I've got in there, it'll actually take you directly to the sites I'm mentioning. And you'll be able to, like for the RFSO or et cetera, you can actually look at those specific information. I am going to talk about it a bit more in detail later, but this will allow you to kind of play with it. So when you're looking at where's the thing, because it's even on government web pages, this is very hard to find. I mean, you've got millions and millions of pages. So this will take you directly to these sites. So hopefully that helps you to navigate that a bit more straightforwardly. Barry may have said this, and I'm going to say it again, but you need to do an supplier registration information. You need an SRI to initially get in the system, which will then lead you to registering for a procurement business number. So the procurement business number, the PBN, you need for every process that we're going to talk about. You need a PBN to do that. So that is really your first step. You must have a PBN. So for those low value dollars that I mentioned, you don't. But so that would be the difference. But otherwise, you would need a PBN for a lot of these other processes. And the PBN is really your way of getting paid. Without a PBN, you cannot ensure payment, if you think about it that way, right? You might be bidding on a contract, but you want to get paid. So that's kind of the key to that. And then it also, the supplier registration information allows your information to be listed, and so that people can see that you're actually on that list, right? So it's a really good opportunity also for low value dollar work as well, because suppliers will sometimes look to that for low dollar value businesses. So it's important to do that. However, I do want to say that the SRI will become obsolete at some point down the road. They're looking at creating a new system that has yet to be announced, but I just wanted to have that as a bit of a caveat for you to know. So if eventually you click on it, you might see it's decommissioned at some point. So just so that doesn't shock you, it will change at some point, but for now, that is currently still the plan. Okay, so if I move us along, you've got your PBN, and I wanted to clarify that those two pieces you must have before you move further, not necessarily for Canada Buy. You can go into Canada Buys, pardon me, anytime. And Canada Buys is like the centralized platform for most federal government departments. So if you think of the post office, for example, they actually have their own platform matrix. So that's because it's Crown. So there is some differences, but in most parts, that's the case for Canada in general. And I believe there's like 100 and some odd departments, plus there's the provincial, municipal, health authorities as well, all within Canada Buys. So there's a lot there. And sometimes you might go in and think, well, that's not federal, but that's actually true. It's not, because all of those areas, our services are listed within Canada Buys. So when you go in, if you're looking at federal government tenders, most of the tenders will lead you to a third party, which is called SAP Ariba. And SAP Ariba you have to actually register for as well. So you have to have an account there. And then once you open the account, you can respond to tenders that you may see that would be appropriate for your business. Now with Canada Buys, you might be thinking, okay, well, I don't know, like I'm going to guess from what WeBC has told me that a lot of, obviously their women entrepreneurs tend to do like lots of coaching services, retail, consulting, HR related businesses, etc. I know there's many others. So like me was tiling. So there may be, I don't know, maybe some tilers there within you. I'm not sure. If you look at Canada Buys, you will see a lot of different service streams for goods, etc. there. For a one-time tender, that may be the case, but some areas will have regular, they're called call-ups, which might be, and I'll give you an example of that. If you think about furniture, we have, usually we have standard agreements for furniture. So that would mean like, so if I decide, it's not really decide, if I need a new desk, let's say, that would be ordered through that particular list of vendors who have already been pre-approved, pre-screened, and they're on that list of qualified vendors. Now, where do you find that information, right? So this is some of that. I'm going to show you this later on this morning, where you find this information. And so often you'll see RFPs or different types of requests for proposals. And it may, if you're not clear which area that is particularly, reach out to me, reach out to us at PAC, because there's a lot in there, and there are many different areas that may be, and I think particularly for women entrepreneurs, there's lots of areas that would be specific to your businesses. So if you look at the CPSS, the Centralized Professional Services Systems, you will see, so you need your BPN to go in here to register. So you would need that created. And the CPSS is the place where you will find all of the tenders that are specific to these areas that you can see listed in this graphic. So the pro services, you have tasks and solutions, task-based and solution-based. You also have those are specific to solutions-based information, professional services, task-based informational informatics, temporary help services, etc. That's all part of CPSS. And it's like, what's the difference, right? It's a little bit complicated. So these professional services include all of these pieces. So tasks and solutions, professional services, are part of that. However, that's for under 100,000. So maybe you're familiar with the Canadian, the Fair Trade Agreement, the Canadian Korean Fair Trade Agreement for services, and that's below 100,000 would not actually apply to that trade agreement. Anything over that 100,000 mark would. And so businesses can compete for those as well. So they kind of keep it separate, the under 100,000 or above. So if it's so under that $100,000 mark is Canadian businesses only. They have RFSA, which is request for supply arrangements. And that may be, your business may fit into some of those streams as well. And if you click on that link, you'll see examples of that service stream and what's potentially there in terms of a tender that you may be an appropriate fit for, and you could complete an RFSA for that. You're looking at it's people who want to bid, but also when they're looking for contractors, they may look at some of this as well. And you can see the various documents there, and some of those tenders are fairly lengthy to apply for in terms of the process. If you're approved, then you become a vendor, and then you're placed on that list of qualified vendors in that particular stream. And if government departments, for example, are in need of a particular service for that is under that $100,000 mark, they may call up and look for, I should actually say, hang on, I should back up to clarify. There's a couple of pieces that if it's under that $40,000 mark, then they can just choose a vendor, right? They can work with a vendor from the list. If it's over 40,000, then they do a call up, and that's where they'll ask people to send a quote in to compete to those qualified folks who are already in the system. Okay, so pro services is that piece of it. Task and solutions for professional services is over that $100,000 mark. And there's two areas. One is the task-based and one is the solutions-based. And I've added links there again, just to help you clarify what's in there, because that might be interesting for you to take a look and see. And really they are two different RFSOs. So RFSA for the task-based, and RFSO for the solutions base. So make sure you understand which stream you're looking at providing and that you're choosing the right one. You wouldn't want to go to the effort of applying for something, right? Because it's a lot of work and then realize it's the incorrect stream. So task-based is more HR services. Hang on, I can even show you. Let me just take a second here. So this looks at the task solution professional services stream and category. So you can see here human resources, etc., all the different service streams. So you can see there's many. So there's two different streams, like I say, and you have an opportunity to look at some of that yourself to hopefully help you understand a bit better what's in which category. Okay, so if I move us along, you've got the task-based informatics professional services, and that is IT specific. And I'm going to clarify the task and solutions based, the one before it is not IT specific. So there's no IT there. Moving to that next one where it's task-based informatics, that is under that 100,000 mark. And that would include some of that except for temporary, when I say temporary help services, and the professional, some of that other areas don't include it. So for task-based information, the TBIPS, that is businesses have to already be running for 3 years, up and running. So, and I think a revenue of over 300,000, I believe, 350. Don't quote me on that. I'm not totally sure, but there is a specific requirement of revenue and a specific number of years outlined. And if you meet that, then you could in fact apply for the RFSA. You could complete the RFSA. Solutions-based information professional services are for very large, like $1 million contracts, and there's 2 tiers to that process. Tier 2 is above 3.75 million, I believe. I think that's just off the top of my head. So let's say 3 million anyway, above that 3 million mark. And then the tier 1 is a lesser amount, but they are large projects specifically. And you would have to be running for at least 3 years and have a revenue stream of over 300,000. And this might be like data integration or creating, I think, like a web internet type services and maintaining something. It would be in that kind of stream. So very large type systems, data transferring. So from one department to another, for example. Those kinds of projects. And they have their own RF, their request for supply arrangement as well within that process. And then the temporary help, there's kind of 2 areas to identify, and I didn't put links there, but it's more of an external, national, capital, regional, Quebec type, not so specific to here, although there are other tenders that are open for the National Capital Region and Quebec. But if you are looking for some of that, reach out to me if you want, and I can send you some specifics, because there are some other regions that are there in Ontario and Quebec.
Sarah and Jen has a question from somebody. Jen, do you want to go ahead, ask your question?
Sorry, one sec. So I have a question from Colleen. Where would software as a service license fall in terms of category?
So software would be IT, right? IT services, solutions, I'm guessing maybe. If you're providing a software, I'm not sure. Without knowing the details, that's hard for me to answer, but I would suspect software IT would probably be more informatics systems.
And just
But
one
I
more
would be
question.
happy, for whoever's asked that question, I would be happy to sit with you at some point in the future and look at making sure you know exactly the right stream for you. But I think it would be the TBIPS, the task-based information professional services.
And question also, is the website that you shared, is it linked on this PowerPoint page?
Yes, it is.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That, and this will all be sent to all of you, so you should be able to click on all of this and it will take you directly to the site. So the web page that talks specifically, for example, task-based solutions, you should be able to see exactly what's there and what those arrangements are. So you should get those details, and we'll talk a little bit more about that this morning as well. Is that good? Are we okay?
Perfect.
Okay, so temporary help services is typically under 100,000 in value, and up to 48 weeks of service. So it might be that there's a lack of staff and they're having difficulty hiring, so they need some temporary help. So that might be a reason that somebody's brought in. So you might do an RFSA for that. So either up to that 100,000 or up to that 48 weeks, whichever comes first. So that would be what the THS is for. And then the other area, professional audit support services, is more that financial auditing, assessment, diagnostic type. And they have their own RFSA. And if you click on that link again, it'll take you directly there. So you should be able to get all that information. And then when you see on this infographic here, you see it says select construction services. That's construction services like engineering work or architects, consultants in that area. And that's up to 100,000. If you go in again, you can see tenders for some of that work. And if it's over, they'll actually post a general tender. You have to compete, but under, you can look at opportunities there that for the under the 100,000 mark. And then translation services is specific to the Translation Bureau. And they have their own platform as well, which is called, it's called G-Lingua. And that's specifically for them. So that's translation with Translation Bureau. If you click on that link again, it'll take you to their website and they'll talk to you about the different service streams there. So English, French translation, other spoken languages as well, sign language interpreting services, and a variety of others. So again, depending on which service stream you fit, you would want to look for that, click on the link, and then follow the steps for that particular stream because they have their own process screening for each. So you would click on those depending on your business. Okay, so now I feel like we've looked at RFSOs, RFSAs, RFPs, or what we call RFx when we're talking about all of these things. It's a lot, right? And it's messy. You know, it's organized mess, but it's a bit overwhelming for sure. Okay. So I know that there's a lot there when you look at these. And if you miss one small detail, your bid will considered non-responsive and not qualify from missing something, you know, that cannot seem very obvious. So how do you prepare for some of these? And I think I just wanted to look at on RFSA or RFSO with you to see, you know, how would you sort of look at this, and maybe, you know, if you're choosing a particular stream, and then looking, and I encourage you to look in a sample just to see what it looks like. And if you're unsure which one would be the right fit for you, contact me and I'll help you find the right service stream and the right RFSO, RFSA, RFx that would fit your business model and allow you to take a good look at some of these examples for yourselves. So some of the tricks I was give you, sort of the tips and tricks. If you do Control F, right, for find, you can do a word find, and you can look for words like mandatory, right? So if you do that, it's going to tell you what's mandatory, what must you do, what must you comply with and respond to, right? And so that you don't miss anything that's mandatory. So if you've got a 50-page document, trying to identify everything that's mandatory can be a challenge. But this way you can actually take from this and create your own document that identifies these areas so you know what it is. And then it'll allow you to begin to look at what you need to meet that requirement, maybe even for down the road that you don't currently have. But if you kind of create your own file and prepare yourself for future applications, then you allow yourself to kind of know what areas you want to work towards to allow you in the future to apply for a request for proposal. Or this can be very time consuming, but if you begin to do this now and create a bit of a file for yourself, it can really kind of keep you online for doing this, and it'll create a much faster process for you down the road. So another trick we like to offer is, again, looking at what's required. So looking for these keywords, right? Doing a word search to make sure you're not missing anything around what's required from you as a business. Another word, must, right? So again, looking for what you must do, must have. There looked like there was 78 musts, right? Or see where that word is written anyway, that will help you to identify. It is a good tool to make sure that you do not you miss any of the required responses. Okay. So when we think about businesses, right, and many small businesses, I know that we don't always have the capacity to bid and to hold a large contract, or we don't have the budget or the capital early on, that we may be looking for those gains later, but not quite there. And so how do you navigate that? How can you take advantage of opportunities? If you look at Canada Buys, and often, if you're looking at a tender, so if you do a search for a tender, and if you look at the bottom, it'll often say, you'll see the word partnerships. And that may be where folks are, if they're interested in a partnership, can identify themselves. So they're willing to be a partner, to have a partner. And so to look for those opportunities where you might be able to partner with another business, reach out to them, have a conversation, explore that as an option, or post that you're interested in doing such a thing, right? So that you can be identified. So a supplier could reach out to you as well. I think one thing I would also mention is if you're looking at a joint venture, what's really important is that you actually create a separate SRI before you kind of move into that joint venture, because of course each of you would have your own SRI, but you would need to actually create a new one. So, and that would have to be created into SAP Ariba as well, so that you're identified there within the system, and that would lead you in there. So again, if you're unsure about some of these things I'm mentioning, please reach out to me. I'd be happy to have that conversation. And then my last piece, time is moving along here. So with LDV contracts, If you're looking at, okay, I'm wanting to connect with federal government, but not yet doing that sort of procurement process, you want to sort of track your authority name, your client name if possible, having a bit of a summary of timeline, and some of the like success stories you've had or testimonials from clients. Track all of that. Hang on to it, because down the road you apply for an RSA, RSO, RFP. These are some of the questions that are going to come up. They're going to ask, how are you going to meet the demand? And, you know, why should we consider you, basically, right? And you're going to be able to say, well, you've done some of these things within an LDV, and you're going to be able to speak to it really clearly. And you're going to have all that evidence already created, right? So you're basically, you're showing all of that work you've done with those low dollar value contracts. You're creating basically a success story, testimonials, etc., to really showcase your work. And a lot of they don't always go just for the dollar mark. They want to look, they're creating points for how you provide service. What's the quality of the work you do? So you want to really speak to that and emphasize those pieces as you tell your success story, right? You want to highlight the value you'll add and showcase your experience. And I think I'm probably getting fairly close to time. I want to leave opportunity for David and questions, so I'll pause there.
That's great. Thank you, Sarah Ann. That was again, a lot, but the nice part of it is there's nuggets in there where people can start. And that's what we're talking about. If you can talk about it for ages, but unless you get in there and start doing it, or make an arrangement to speak with Sarah Ann in person, you know, then you've got a place to start. So that's fantastic. I'm going to start sharing my screen again. And oh no, I'm not going to start sharing my screen. I'm going to ask David to start sharing his screen.
That's me. I'll be sharing.
And I'll pass that ask on to Jennifer to share the screen.
That's right.
Thank you, Jennifer. Good morning, everybody, and thank you, Cathy. Sarah Ann, great to see you again. You know, great comments that you were sharing, Sarah Ann. I was writing notes madly. The low dollar value contract, absolutely. That is a golden gem that I think the people in the audience here should be taking a really look at. Sarah Ann, you mentioned about capacity to bid and deliver on the contract. And so, you know, it was great that you pointed out about the partnership as well as a joint bid. I did not know that you need to create a separate SRI for that. Thank you very much. And then, you know, your last comments, highlighting your experience, highlighting your success stories so that the individuals at the federal government who are involved in making decisions on the contracts really get to know what you're capable of. And so, folks, what I'm here to do today is to talk about that, about your capacity, about how you could increase your capacity so that you're able to not only win the contracts, but deliver on them, and to share information about BDC Supply Diversity Program. So before I get really excited and get into this, I just want to tell you that my role as a Regional Manager Inclusive Entrepreneurship is to work with BDC account managers and with partner organizations like WeBC and PAC to connect diverse entrepreneurs with people and programs so they could grow and scale their business. I'm also my team's lead related to procurement and supply diversity programs. So I help get diverse suppliers into the supply chain. Now we got a lot of people in the webinar, which is fantastic. I cannot see everybody's video, but I do believe you have the reaction icon there. So for those of you that know about BDC, can you hit me up with what's the reaction options we got here? Thumbs up if you know about BDC. And I see that my good friend Kim Jacob of Arbory Communications is in the audience. So great to see you, Kim. All right, so I think Cathy and Jennifer, you can help me out here. Are we getting a lot of thumbs up? Yeah, I'm seeing some thumbs up. So that's great to hear or see that people are familiar with somewhat about BDC. So if we move on to the next slide, we are the Bank for Canadian Entrepreneurs. And this September will be our 80th year anniversary. And so how do we help entrepreneurs? Moving on to slide 2 there, Jen. I'll just wait to get you caught up. How do we help? Basically, there's 2 ways that we help. For those of you that are familiar, it is with loans and with our advisory service. And that's the piece that I think that really makes us different. Now, I am a big fan of WeBC's holistic approach and especially their mentorship program. I've met many advisors like our very own Cathy Burrell here. They are very capable, they're passionate, and I think the secret sauce for WeBC is actually its people. And so for those of you that have been around and have enjoyed WeBC's services, I think you're all nodding your heads right now in agreement with me, right? Now, speaking about resources that are available for you in your efforts to get contracts from the federal government and other large corporations, I'd like to ask Jennifer to move to the next slide so I could illustrate the different complementary resources that are available for you. And that's right here on the webinar. So you heard Sarah Ann last time. You heard from my good friend Barry Payne. What a wealth of information that gentleman has. And like all advisors at PAC, they're the ones that can navigate you through this process. And in fact, our account managers at BDC, one of the things that I have coached our account managers to do is to refer their clients to a PAC advisor. And the feedback that we've been getting is nothing but excellent with the PAC advisors. You've got the WeBC, you've heard me praising their song. They are fantastic. I love the approach on their loan. And so they're able to come in at a certain time in your early growth stage to be able to help increase your capacity. And then at the bottom right is us, our inclusive entrepreneurship team, which is a national team. And I'm responsible for BC and our North region. Can we move to the next slide, Jennifer? So one of the ways that we are able to support the inclusive entrepreneurs is through a new program that we recently launched. And shout out to WeBC for helping to promote the awareness of this program. It's the Inclusive Entrepreneurship Program. It's a $250 million commitment that we launched at the end of June, of which $50 million is a envelope for term lending. It is a pilot program for 18 months to demonstrate that there is a demand out there for the underserved and underrepresented entrepreneurs, particularly women, Indigenous, and Black entrepreneurs, where there is a need to get that capital to be able to increase your capacity so that you can comfortably deliver on your contract. You can see here some of the eligibility requirements. Other information quickly about this loan, I'll be happy to answer questions in the Q&A or offline. Up to $350,000. We do have our version of a holistic approach, and that includes some education component around the loan. And so in order to help reduce the barrier to financing costs as well as promote learning, there is an optional online learning related to financial literacy that once completed, the interest rate will be reduced by 0.25%. And there's many other support systems that we have put in place. So that's our inclusive entrepreneurship program, but I'm really excited to talk more about our supplier diversity program. So Jennifer, we can move to that next slide. And
David,
yes,
David,
yes.
Could I ask a question? You said you go up to 350,000. Where do you start? What size loan could a woman start with?
That's an excellent question. Thank you, Cathy. So for our existing clients, they could start from a minimum of 25,000 and up. For new clients, it would be 100,000 and up.
Thank you.
Great question. Thanks. So I'm going to switch gears now. I'm going to put on my supplier diversity hat on. And what I'm sharing with you here is our supplier diversity program, where we have mandated ourselves to purchase a certain percentage of our overall procurement from, on the eligibility side, these types of businesses. So just to give you some more information, and you've got the link there, you can have access to the PDF file to this. In our supplier portal, you can go ahead and register. That's how you get to be visible and known to us. But just for information for you as to what we buy anything and everything, but the majority of our purchase are for dollar values of under 25,000. 93% of our purchase is under 25,000. And then when you go into the portal, you'll see a link to be able to give you a one-pager as to the type of purchases that we make. So it's in HR, we've got recurring needs for training, executive coaching, recruitment, construction, project management, marketing, professional services, IT, and so forth. Now, on the eligibility side, I would like to add that because we're a federal crown corporation, one of the other eligibilities is that the supplier has to be able to deliver, if it's a service, in both English and French. If you are not able to do so, that is okay. You could bring in a tier 2 supplier, a subtrade, to be able to deliver the language that your company is not able to provide. So that's the other eligibility on there. Certified diverse suppliers. Cathy, I believe that this audience is aware about the certification.
I believe so.
Great.
You can
So
touch on
yeah,
it
so
briefly.
very quickly, there are organizations in Canada, there's 6 of them that will certify for women entrepreneurs. There are 2 that you can look at, WeBC Canada, as well as We Connect International. And that what they are certifying is that one of the things they certify for is that you are a majority-owned women business. So that's 51% and above. So for us, one of our eligibilities for our supplier diversity program is that you are either a certified diverse supplier, or you're a client of ours, or the benefit corporation certifications as well. So I'd like to ask right now to the audience, in the chat box, if you can just type in there if you are certified, or if you're a B Corp, or you're both. Just type that in the chat box and let's see what we have. All right, so somebody's a B Corp. Let me see here. Colleen, thank you. Winnie, BDC client, thank you very much. Hopefully your experience is going as expected or beyond. Oh, thanks, Colleen. You're also a client. Great. This is really good to see who is client and so forth, as well as people who are being exposed to BDC for the first time. Thank you very much. All right, so now I'm going to put everything into a story for you. And that is to illustrate the impact that BDC can play regarding our supply diversity program, as well as our support on the lending and the advisory side. Before I ask Jennifer to go to the last two slides here, I would like to ask you, and you can just nod your head or give a thumbs up, how many of you have experienced way back when, for some of you, where you were trying to get your first job? And when you were interviewing, the interviewer said to you, hey, this looks good, but come back to us when you have job experience. And you're wondering, how do I get job experience if I don't get the job, right? All right. So yeah, a lot of thumbs up I'm seeing there. Well, you know what? This same thing relates to getting your contract in the procurement. So Jennifer, if you can move on to the next slide here. This is a story about a BDC client. And it's related to that, getting that job experience. It's related to getting that first contract. It's a diverse supplier to BDC. It's also a client of ours. And what happened was that the women entrepreneur tried to get a contract from a large corporation. So it's an IT company. The buyer said, everything looks okay, but you know, one thing missing is that you do not have experience in delivering a contract for a large corporation. So come back when you have large corporation experience. So that whole job thing, right? But this is what happened. The client had a conversation with our account manager about the situation. Our account manager informed her about our supply diversity program. She bid for a small size contract. And this is one of the key messages that I hope you'll take away from me, is that she started with a small size contract and won that contract and delivered. And then she bid on a very large open tender contract. And she also won that contract and delivered. Having won contracts with BDC, she was then able to, on her resume, be able to get other contracts from other government departments. Then she went back to that same large corporate procurement officer and said, all right, do I have experience now? And the answer was yes. Now, throughout her journey, BDC was there to be able to help fund her growth, because she needed working capital. She needed assets. She needed a building. She went from a floor to buying the entire building for employees. So we were there with the financing as well as the advisory piece. So that illustrates a couple of messages that I want to leave with you. One is those low dollar value contracts that Sarah Ann was mentioning, those are gold. Just like our client started with a very small contract here, built up her resume to where now she has that job experience. And so the last slide that I will leave with you, Jennifer, is the benefits of the certification with these different certifying councils. And you can see that for this particular entrepreneur, it really helped in her journey to get into the supply chain of large corporates and government. And so I will end that here, Cathy, because I would love to have some questions. And on this deck, I have an appendix slide, everybody, that has links to these various resources that I was mentioning. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, David. Yeah, I was going to mention as well, at WeBC, we do have one of our staff members specifically is somebody that can lead you through that certification process as well, because it is something that will really help you move your business to the next level. So, that's fantastic. Okay, it's here, and there we go. All right. I want to thank our panelists today. First of all, thank you, Sarah Ann. That was wonderful. And David, same thing. Again, WeBC does these webinars for one reason and one reason only, is to help women entrepreneurs move to the next level in whatever their business that they're doing, and just making you aware that these opportunities are here. It's not there's no magic system. It's not like you need a secret password to speak with Sarah Ann or David. You can just let Jen or I know, and we will connect you with them. And again, a one-on-one session, sometimes it takes all that muddy water and it turns it into clear water, and you are exactly going in the right direction and not wasting your time. So thank you so much to both of you. Basically, we've got probably a good 5 minutes for questions if anybody's interested. You can raise your hand. You can go ahead and type something in the chat. Jen will be monitoring that. I'll do my little blurb here. There's a few things that we're having at WeBC. Again, if you signed up for our eBlast newsletter, you would get all this information, which is great. And I want everybody to remember that we are doing a feedback poll at the end. So any questions for Sarah Ann? Any questions for David? I know it's a lot of information. Sometimes it's like, I'll have a question, but I'll have a question in 3 days when I've had time to think about it. Yoga with Erin B has raised her hand. Erin, please ask your question. Is it for Sarah Ann or for David? Oh, you're on mute, Erin.
Okay, so this is a crazy question, but would there be anything for yoga or yoga retreats in there? Oh, okay, crazy question. Would there be anything for yoga or yoga retreats in there? I'm just coming off of disability, and yeah, this is what I'm doing. I have got experience in both.
Is there a wellness component for the federal government, either of you?
Yes, I would say there are wellness areas. Yeah, mental health, support, wellness. I've not specifically seen yoga, but I think it's worth exploring. You've got me curious now, Erin. I am going to have to look into it, but certainly wellness, and I could see that being a fit. Now with coaching session or team sessions, activities, I'm thinking about programming potentially. I think it's possible. There might be a place for yoga and all that, but I will definitely explore that. If you're interested, Erin, reach out to me and we could have a conversation about this.
Thank you.
And
Yes,
same here,
thank you.
Erin, same here. I would think that with BDC, you'll be through some sort of regional conference that we have, and maybe as an activity, you're part of that activity. As far as on a national level, specific to your services, as much as I would love to say yes, let's just leave it at that. I want to say yes.
Okay, thank you.
So David's a firm maybe in that. Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Any other questions for Sarah Ann or for David regarding?
Cathy, I saw that B typed into the chat, wondering if there's fees associated with becoming certified.
David, do you want to?
Sure. Yes, there are fees associated becoming certified, and each organization is slightly different in terms of what that fee is. The services are similar, some are different. If you want to know more information, I am, as full disclosure, I am on the board committee with WeBC Canada. So I am familiar with WeBC Canada's operations, but both organizations, We Connect International and WeBC Canada, are fabulous organizations.
And there was
Yes, go ahead.
There was another question back when Sarah Ann was talking, asking if it was net or gross revenue threshold.
I believe that I can't recall actually whether it's net or gross. We'd have to look. I'm not sure. The link is there and it should be specific. It should take you right there to the RFSA, and it should say right within the requirements, the financial requirements. So give you and you can even use those search words for mandatory or required, and you will find quickly those kind of limits. And again, if it's not clear, please reach out to me.
All right. How are we doing for time, Jen? Are we close?
We are 2 minutes out.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to reiterate to everybody here today that if you didn't get your question formulated or answered today, go ahead and take a minute to think about it. And tomorrow, either later today or tomorrow, you're going to receive an email from WeBC with a link to this session. It's also going to provide you with links to the 2 PowerPoint presentations with all sorts of links. So take your time. And if you would like to speak with Sarah or Sarah Ann or David later on, you know, we can make that happen. So again, I just want to reiterate that this was a great session. Thanks everybody for taking time out of your August to come and join us today. Please sign up for our eBlast newsletter. So when another one of these PAC sessions come along, and I'm sure we usually have at least 5 or 6 a year, you'll be the first to be notified. I want to thank everybody for joining us today, and just let you know that we are going to do a little feedback poll. Oh, and Jen is like magic. So there is a little feedback poll, and as I'll remind you again, if you have a burning question about a session or a part of this session that you'd like to learn more about, you know, kind of type it in to the feedback poll, and our committee that does our webinars get together and they talk about that. And we'd love to know what you would like us to present. Thank you very much to Sarah Ann again and David. And we've got a couple of seconds left in the feedback poll, and then I think we're finished. Again, join us on social if you can, and just send us an email, give us a call at WeBC about anything that you saw today, and we will get you to the right person. So goodbye, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us, and please enjoy the rest of your day. Stay safe. If anyone is out there in BC where there's a fire, we're thinking about you. So thanks very much for being here today. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, those are some great numbers, Jen.
Karen's just saying bye-bye.
Yeah,
Take care.
bye. We'll see
Bye.
you later.
And then
So Jen, you're going to end the meeting?